Good morning, folks. Today we're going to be covering Chapter 5, and some of you guys were trying to help me out and identified that the due dates for the Chapter 5 were accidentally put before the Chapter 4 exercises. So if you after this video, if you notice some mistakes you may have made in the Chapter 5 exercises, as always, you can make corrections and turn it back in. So, take your time, make sure you get it done right, and we'll go over what we need to do today. All right, so Chapter 1 introduced HTML, Chapter 2 was HTML, Chapter 3 was CSS, Chapter 4 was both. Now it's time to take a break from coding and just talk about basic design principles for the web and just design principles for anything visual. In Chapter 5, we'll look at some tools to help you plan out a website, and we'll also look at the best way to use images and text and things like that. And we'll take a look at some examples of sites that use those principles properly, and we'll take a look at some sites that ignore those principles, and you will see a stark contrast between the two. All right. Good morning, Miles. All right, so this slide shows a step-by-step guide on how to create a website. Plan, design, test. All right, so probably one of the most important parts is planning of any kind of project. The more information you have, the more time you spend looking ahead at what issues you may encounter will save you time in the long run. You're trying to reduce the amount of time it takes in this final step. With proper planning, your project can be successful. All right. The most fun part is the designing, I think, and a lot of people like to skip straight to that. And in this course, pretty much everything that we do as an exercise is such a small scope, you don't really need to plan much. So this is more for a real-world project, but there are some things in this chapter that you should stick to as we move on. Okay, so So when you're designing anything that other people are going to see or use, or I guess whenever you're designing anything, it's hard to take your own opinions and subjective design decisions out and focus on who is actually going to be using this website. All right, so probably the biggest thing to consider is your target audience. And so let's take a look at these pictures here. They're two different websites. We have the NASA website here, and let's see how current this is. Ooh, it's not .com, it's probably .gov or something. What does it say? Oh well, we'll just Google it. Maybe. There we go. doesn't look all that different from the example. It looks like they went with an all black background. They've kind of simplified the look here. But it's about the same layout. We have different containers that basically highlight some interesting information and different sections. So it's very similar. All right. One thing you'll notice about this site is the use of color and the contrast between the images in the background. All right. And they did use a darker background with a lighter text. All right. In this example. So let's think about it for a second. Who do you think the target audience is of the NASA website? And we can use the way it's designed to kind of think about who they were trying to target. All right. So NASA is probably trying to reach an audience of people who are interested in space travel, the universe, the galaxy, stars, you know, hobbyists, and just people that like information, and they're probably coming here as a hobby. All right. They're not coming here to study rocket science. They're not coming here to find detailed blueprints of anything. So you can tell that they've designed the site. They've used a darker background with lighter text, which is usually used for less serious websites. All right. And they use a lot of graphics. They're trying to get interest. And so you can kind of explore the site and just get a bunch of information. Let's see here. Let's check out Moon to Mars. That sounds interesting. All right, so we have looks like they're going to be trying to launch from the moon. I don't know if they're going to land there and take off from there, or if they're going to use it to slingshot to Mars. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's even a real thing or it's just from science fiction movies. But I guess if I read this 35 megabyte PDF, which could be extremely long or just have a lot of pictures. All right, and so they're trying to garner interest, which could lead to support for funding and things like that. Space travel has really gone on the back burner in compared to when we first tried to go to the moon. All right. So even as I'm looking at this, I want to continue reading about some of this stuff. And since I'm thinking about it, if you are a fan of science fiction and space travel and things like that, I recently discovered this idea of something called a Dyson Swarm, which turns the sun into a giant power plant. All right. And so there's been an older idea of in science fiction of something called a Dyson sphere, where you encase the sun in a container so you can harness the energy as power, because that would just be a ridiculous amount of power. But it's very unrealistic. The amount of resources it would take I don't even know. There's no way we could get that. But a Dyson swarm is basically a bunch of solar panels that orbit the sun, and then they beam the energy as a laser back towards Earth. And I think it's a cool idea because you don't have to finish the thing for it to work. You can just build it a piece at a time. Anyway, look that up if you're interested in science fiction. There's a lot of cool videos about it. I'll recommend one here.
By the year 3100, Earth's sky...
We don't need ads. Well, for some reason I can't find it quickly. If you don't mind, Scott, if you can find that Dyson Swarm video and send that to me, if you're not too busy. The animated one with the birds going to the moon and building a Dyson Swarm. Do you remember that one? It's the one we watched. Anyway, you should always have an open mind and be interested in, you know, new things, especially in this field. I know we're trying to learn how to build a website, and I'm talking about yeah, that's the one. Yeah, if you what's the best way for you to, if you, oh, perfect. And the people that make these videos, they make a ton of awesome science videos that are very entertaining, and they give you the base facts, but if you want, you can explore more. And don't worry, we'll get through chapter 5. There's not as much technical skills in this one.
Human history is told by the energy we use. And
so I'll post this in the chat if you're interested. All right, so all of that just to say, oops. Did I kill the stream? I don't think so. All right. All of that to say, you know, who is the audience of this website, right? And how is it designed to meet the needs of that audience? Now let's take a look at another site here. Much less exciting site. If I can zoom in. Maybe. There we go. So this is the website for the United States Department of Labor. You guys have visited this site before, right? No, I didn't even know about it before I saw it in this PowerPoint. Let's see. So let's take a look at it first here, and then we'll see what it looks like now. Because I think these This book may be from either 2017 or 2018. All right, so who's going to come to this website? All right, what is this? The Bureau of Labor Statistics. Sounds like a very serious organization. They care about the numbers. They want their numbers to be accurate, hopefully. Do you see images on this page? Not really. You see links to a lot of different information. So this is a site targeted towards people who want labor statistics. And so you can, let's see what they've got on here. They're talking about the CPI-U. I wonder if that is unemployment? Maybe. What is CPI? Oh, Consumer Price Index. That's what we're looking at. Okay. So you can watch the Consumer Price Index increase or decrease, right? All right. And here it describes what that is, so you can learn a lot about labor statistics. So let's check out what their site looks like now, if that department hasn't been dissolved. A lot of changes have been happening. All right. This is the one I wanted to switch back to. There we go. All right, here we want to go to U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. Oh, it's Bureau. All right. So it looks like they no longer like the red color, and now they're blue. I wonder if there's some kind of political party undertone going on here. It's funny that it was red, and now it's blue. Read into that however you want. But anyway, it's still the same. We have mostly text. It looks like they did add some images here, but this is the home page also, and the one we're looking at in the PowerPoint is a specific content page, and so it cuts out all the extras. Let's see if it's still the same. So we're looking at Consumer Price Index. Take a look here. It looks like whoever chose this site just clicked on the first link. All right, so they've got charts now. Oh, okay. Do they have a date on here? It says next release June 15th, 2011. So this is a lot older than I thought. All right. And let's look at something more interesting than the fact that prices of food and everything that isn't food and energy has increased in price. That's it's nice to know. What else do we have? You know, what would be interesting to see is the growth of jobs in this industry of web developer, web designer, software developer. So let's see. What would tell us that? County wages. So it's good to know the growth of the field you're in while you're studying. You really want to choose something that you have kind of a knack at and you enjoy doing as a job, and try not to worry too much about here we go, employment by occupation. Too much. Don't worry about making the most money, because you might make yourself miserable. Okay. Though, if you do become a web developer or a software developer, there's a lot of money in those jobs. Okay. Occupation profiles. Let's check that out. All right, so what category are we looking for? Something with technology. Oh, there's educational. I might want to look at that later. See if they're paying me enough. Computer and mathematical occupations. That's probably what we want. All right, here we go. Analysts, research scientists, if anyone's IT networking administration, maybe someday you'll be a computer network support specialist, right? Let's look at that. And for the people in the database class, let's take a look at the database job. Here's computer programmer, software developer, and software quality assurance analysts and testers. All right, so a developer is someone who develops solutions to problems in the code, or by coding. They can build tools that will help solve whatever business issues or anything. A quality assurance analyst and tester is someone who takes the developed code and tests it to work out the bugs. And so these two groups work together. Sometimes at a smaller company, you may be both. Is that kind of what you were, Scott? Or when you were working, did you you developed, but did you do your own QA?
No, we have QA.
Did you? Oh, okay. Oh, and here's web developer, and I've never heard it called this, digital interface designer. Okay. And then if you want, I've heard that this is out of computers, but you would use a computer a lot, I'm sure, and it's probably a lot of statistics, but I've heard this is a cushy job, is an actuary. Okay. There's so many jobs that you don't even think of. All right, where are we going? Okay, so educational instructors. Post-secondary. I think that's post-high school. All right, 31,800. That is extremely close. What is this? Double check this. Oh, this is probably the number of people employed. All right, and so I'm not sure if they make any distinction between, oh, here's junior colleges. All right. So maybe I shouldn't have looked at this. All right, 88,000. That sounds really nice. I'll just say that much. Okay, now for the computer. And while we're looking at this, you can pay attention. I'm looking at this to show you the design and the layout of the site. This is an informational site. You know, I'm looking at it because I'm interested in the numbers, but I'm not going to be. Actually, I do use these numbers in advertising for the program. Because it does have such a high growth rate. Actually, I'm curious if they have growth rate in here. Because teaching is an area I think we're getting less. I think it might be decreasing. I don't know. This is, unfortunately, teaching is probably something that's going to be replaced by computers. Hopefully not in my lifetime, but it's possible. Okay. Top paying industries. Highest concentration of employment. Highest levels of employment. Okay. So definitely my mean wage is bringing that average down. Okay. But we also live in an area with an extremely low cost of living comparatively to larger areas, so in larger, higher population areas. So what are we looking at? Now we are looking at, is this just the overall? Oh no, this is maybe network admin. And so if you plan to work locally, what I would do is take the annual mean wage and divide it by 2 here for our area. That's just a very rough estimate, just based on what I've seen jobs that students from my program have gotten, and based on my own salary, and based on what the mean is for our area. It's probably about 50% of the mean, it looks like. And I like how here Illinois is one of the highest number of employed IT network administrators, and they color the whole state here green, but you know it's all concentrated in the north. Okay, so that kind of throws off our numbers here. We should convert large cities to city-states. That's what we need to do. All right. Anyway, so we had, this is about the same, around 70,000 to 60,000. And these are, 80,000. So Scott Ryan can probably tell you more about this field, but I would say people make 35,000 to 45,000, probably on the lower end coming out of Lakeland, but it also depends on how desperate people are for these type of jobs, people to fill these kinds of jobs. And companies in the area really like local people that are gonna stay, and they like to grab those people because you know what their alternative is, and this is supposed to give you some hope here. Their alternative is hiring someone at double the salary as a consultant who has no vested interest in the company other than getting paid, potentially, and gaining experience and moving on, when they could hire someone locally for half the price, and they know everything they put into that person is going to benefit the company. So that's something to think about. And for the people, I don't think anyone in here, maybe if anyone's close to graduating and you want some advice, or are looking for internships and stuff, I have a lot of connections in local businesses, so just contact me and I can help you out. All right, let's look at database. Okay, so this is going to be on the higher end because I think there are very few people that specialize in database. It's kind of like accounting. It's not hard to learn. It's just nobody wants to practice it because it's very technical and very niche knowledge. And they're willing to pay someone a lot of money to take care of it for them. Okay. I don't even know if this is a job that you would be able to find in this area. I don't know if any companies here would have in-house database. They're probably not large enough, but I don't know. I've never seen one posted, let's say that. All right, and this is really a job where it's easy to be a consultant, to design someone's database and set it up, and then you may just provide maintenance over time, and you get paid a fee for that. But while you're consulting, you make like potentially $80 to $100 an hour. Okay, but again, don't do this for the money. I really like databases, so that, that's something I could get behind, but it's not as good as programming. It's not as interesting as programming to me. So here's computer programmers. Again, I believe part of the reason these numbers are so high is because of the need. Companies need websites they need software, and they need applications. Every company now, when the internet and the web became more popular, every company has to have a website. And now we're to the point where even small companies need a website, or, you're not taken seriously. And even more now, social media is taken so seriously, businesses have to have a social media presence. And if your company doesn't have an app, again, every company now needs an app. So there's a huge need for all of these jobs. All right. And so here it's around 100,000. Should expect, or, maybe less than half of this for this area for a starting job. These are probably also including, much higher level programmers and architects. All right, software developers and quality assurance. So if you take logic and web scripting and object-oriented programming, or, if you're in the computer programming degree, this is what you're aiming for right here, a developer. Okay? Sometimes you'll find a job pretty easily if there's openings in the area, and sometimes you might have to look farther away. It just depends on if you have this knowledge and skill and you're willing to go anywhere, you could probably find a job pretty quickly. But not everyone's willing to move. And depending on where you live, this salary in our area looks amazing, right? Because housing is cheap, food and goods are cheap. You can tell, even between Champaign and Mattoon, I feel like I pay, double at a restaurant in Champaign usually than I would in Mattoon. So even that close to the city can have different cost of living. So if you move to California and you make this much, it may still be hard to be comfortable. Okay. And these are jobs that you can do remotely also, which is nice. So for those people that are looking for jobs, you can also look for remote work, pretty much anywhere. I don't know. I should do some research on international remote work. The internet the internet is really globalizing the world, and in the past it was easy because you had to go to a country to work there, and so they have systems of visas, and they limit you on what jobs you can take, so you don't take jobs from the people that live in the country, or all of them anyway. But I wonder what the laws are regarding remote work online. I'll make a note here and look into that, because that may be an avenue for getting people internships and jobs. All right. And when I was in undergrad, I studied information systems, which was tied into business. And the professors always talked about how other countries like to hire Americans. I mean, probably right now that may not be the case, but I've heard that companies in China like to hire American business people almost just as a showpiece or a sign of strength. It's weird. They don't even, I don't know if they even expect you to work that hard. They just kind of bring you into meetings and stuff to show off. I've heard that. And then also, while I was in undergrad, I was trying to find ways to pay for a master's degree, and one opportunity was going to Saudi Arabia, and they would run you through their master's program. And again, they were trying to get Americans to work in Saudi Arabia, and they would pay for your school, but you had to work there for 5 years. And they would pay for everything, housing, school, but Saudi Arabia is kind of a culture shock, especially, when we're from the Midwest here. And we don't, if you've lived around the Mattoon area your whole life, you're probably not exposed to a lot of other cultures. So, I was raised in the Midwest, and other than college and grad school, I really have not had that much exposure. But it's something you want to work on, because in this field, in any of these fields that we're looking at, you're going to be working with people internationally potentially. All right. So here, which one are we looking at here? Oh yeah, the software developer. So we've got software publisher. I don't know what that is. Computer design, data processing. Okay. And this is data processing is not data entry. This is where you would basically program the data entry, or the data, create and use a data conversion tool to transfer. If a company wants to upgrade its systems, you could write a tool to transfer the data from the old system to the new system. All right. And if you are in the Python class or considering taking it, we learn how to do that. All right, the last one here, actuaries. What is an actuary? They analyze statistical data such as mortality, accident, sickness, disability, and retirement rates to forecast risk and liability for payment of future benefits. So these are the people that decide how much an insurance payment should be for different groups of people. And the amount of data that goes into this is scary. They can pretty much predict the future for people on an app based on basically everything about a group of people, to determine when they're going to die or when they're going to get sick. It's kind of a weird job. $93 an hour. That's crazy. Again, I don't know if this kind of job would be available in this area, or I don't know very much about it, other than I've heard it's a cushy job. Okay. So any statistics or math people, there's the job you should aim for in industry if you're not willing to do research. Okay. But we're just trying to get an associate's degree here, and then we can worry about moving on. Okay, all of that to take a look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. All right, you're not going to come here as a hobby. You're not coming here to be entertained. You're coming here to get numbers and potentially to use those numbers. All right. And now, since I thought of it, let's do computer jobs. All right. So this is good news. Employment, I can't read today. Employment in computer and information technology occupations, so the kind of stuff you would use this information for, is projected to grow 11%. Okay, so from 2019 to 2029. So over a decade, it's supposed to grow 11%. And this is the part I like. It's much faster than the average for all occupations. This is a really good sign that you're in a field where you're going to be able to get a job. And I just want to say, it's a hard decision to get into higher education, especially a 4-year university, and you hear the horror stories of people spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars or getting loans. I had to do that. And not being able to find a job. I was lucky. I found one right outside of school. Apparently, it's really hard to find good teachers for low-paying jobs. So it wasn't too hard for me to find a job. But if this field has a growth of 11%, that just means you're going to... I am very confident that if you can complete the program, we can find a job for you. And you're paying a fraction of the cost of a 4-year university. So it's a win-win. So that's supposed to make you feel good about your decision to do this. And that's why I love this job so much. All right. If I was teaching manufacturing or farming or agriculture-based careers, a lot of that stuff is being automated now. You don't really want to go spend a significant amount of time training yourself for a field that may not exist when you graduate, right? All right. At what point will we actually move on to the material? Well, Chapter 5 doesn't have a lot of meat on its bones. It's more pointing out a lot of kind of basic common sense design principles. So anyway, this right here is probably the single most important sentence in this entire chapter. Consider the target audience. Not of just these sites, but of anything you do. That should be the focus of, or the goal of your work, is to create something that is going to be for a specific target audience. Okay, so let's talk about more specifics. So this is talking about website organization. How do you want to organize the pages on your site? All right, and there are some options here: hierarchical, linear, and random. Probably 99% of the time, you're going to follow a hierarchical site. And what does that mean? It looks like this. And that's pretty much both of the sites that we looked at use an hierarchical layout. It's a fun word to say. Try and say that 5 times fast. Okay. It'll help you prepare to pronounce that word if you're asked in a professional setting. All right. And I close the sites, of course. Let's use Lakeland's site as an example of a hierarchical laid out site. Pretty much any site for a business is going to be laid out like this, or it's the best way to deliver information. So, well, it's the best way to deliver information when you have a lot of different types of information. Let's put it that way. So, for example, here at Lakeland, we have all of these menu options here. And what they're attempting to do is help you narrow down your search to the information you want. All right. And I would recommend using the search bar instead of trying to search the menus. And we'll talk about what issues there are with this kind of organizing things in this manner. All right. And you'll notice when we highlight over this option, a box appears with links, and then when we remove that, it disappears. All right. In the next chapter, we'll look at how to do that. All right. So anyway, this is hierarchical because here I am at the home page and I have a million options to choose. Let's go to scholarships. So in case you guys didn't know this was here, and let's say you could use more money to help with transportation, to pay for courses, you know, it could make your life a little bit simpler if you could just have a little bit more money. And what a scholarship is people just giving away money to help educate and give skills to people that are trying to learn. And what's awesome about Lakeland is you may be right out of high school or recently out of high school and you're just trying to progress up education-wise. But it's also good because if that doesn't describe you, and maybe you've worked, I had a guy who was a forklift driver for 8 or 10 years, something like that, and he did the program, and now he is a programmer, so he shifted his career. So if that's why you're here, again, you're in the right place. And if you don't like this program, there's so many to choose from. All right. And then for the people that are new to higher education or not having a career, don't be afraid to switch. If you're not liking what you're doing, I did that. It cost me a lot of money in a 4-year university, but here at Lakeland, it's so much cheaper, and you have the freedom to try different things. So if you have electives in your program and there's a field you may be interested in, grab a course in there and see if you like it. Okay, anyway, about scholarships. So come to this page and take a look. It looks like there's not that many here. Yeah, you know, if you're an athlete, I guess there's that. Livestock judging scholarship, probably not applying to us. We have the presidential scholarship, which you need a high score for. Okay. Only one application is required to be considered for the foundation scholarships. All right. And it looks like they have $400,000 to give away. And we want to look at, where is that form? I want to show you guys where the form is. Because if you haven't filled this out, go ahead and do it. I don't think it's that difficult. Alright. It's bad when I work here and I can't find something that's extremely important. Okay, let's see. Scholarship opportunities. Is that where I already was? Yes. Alright, let's try again. This is really important because I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're a first generation college student, so what I mean by that is you may not have someone to help guide you through higher education because it can be very complicated. What are semester hours? How do I pay for this? How much financial aid can I qualify for? And I'll tell you, I used a lot of financial aid, and I owe the government not a lot, well, a lot of money, but also, I couldn't have got my education without that. So make sure you always do your financial aid because you may qualify. Even if you don't think you qualify, still fill it out. If you need, if that's something you're interested in and you want help with that, or scholarships or anything, definitely talk to me. Here we go, foundation scholarships. Is this the same page again? Here we go. Okay, foundation scholarships. It's a separate site. Okay, let's look at technology. don't see the form though. Let's look up scholarship form. It's not under scholarships, which is aggravating. I'm glad I'm looking at this because I feel like a lot of people would give up by now. Okay, and so we're learning now that it's important. How well is this fitting the target audience right now? Oh, you know what? It may have been on the side here. I may have found it and then missed it. Oh, now I'm on the donation page. If you're independently wealthy and you have extra money, it's really it's really important to fund education. Someone has to do it. Okay, Lakeland College Foundation. All right, let's go back. We're not interested in donating money right now. Can we find the form? Looks like you can see who got the okay, now I'm still stuck on donating money. Okay, now I'm back here. All right, well, I'll just make a note here and I'll track that down. I'll probably have to email someone. And then I'll probably just post it as an announcement in all my classes. For part-time students, one of the biggest issues is, you know, you're trying to work while you're going to school, usually, if you're going part-time. And so obviously money is a huge barrier and time for you to go to school. And if we can remove that barrier so that you can focus on your studies and getting the skills so you can leave your old job and start a career, why wouldn't we want to do that? Okay, so I'll find that later, I guess. If any of you that are watching find it, please let me know. There's your extra challenge for the day. All right. Talked too much. We'll just hit the highlights here. Because what is the assignment? It's for chapter 5, which a lot of you have already done. But we're going to take a look at these things, site maps and wireframes. And then if you want to go back and fix your work, you totally can. All right. So what we're looking at here, this picture is a site map. It's a list of all the pages that you're going to have on your website. Now, for a more complicated site, you may make, you can represent a group of pages here. For example, products, they have category 1 and 2. Well, let's say you're Amazon and you have 1 million categories. Maybe you would group those into larger categories and continue the hierarchy down. So that way people can find the products they need. Also, it is Prime Day today and tomorrow. So I don't get kickbacks from Amazon for saying this, but I found some things that I was thinking about getting for pretty cheap. So you might want to check that out. There are things on there that can help make you more efficient and potentially help you with school. There's a lot of entertainment-based things on there too to distract you, so be careful. All right, so with a sitemap, you can identify a few problems. For example, you may create something called a shallow hierarchy, and what that is you've organized all your pages to connect to just one other page. For example, here we have some different categories. Yeah, I don't think that does. Oh, does this do anything? All right, and then from within that category, that's not even telling us the stuff. This is just information about admissions, apparently. But this is a good example of a shallow hierarchy. If you want to find information, you have to sift through, I don't even know how many things there are in here. Maybe over 100 options. Do you want to sift through 100 options trying to find the one thing you need? I mean, it helps that it's organized into these categories. But if you're new to Lakeland College or new to higher education or new to community colleges, you may not even understand what any of these are. And so you're going to have to look at everything. This is why I recommend for this site using the search bar. Okay, so the problem is people want to use a website to get what they need quickly. All right, so you should be thinking of the audience. Do you want the audience to have to read potentially 100 options to find what they need? No, they're going to leave. Okay, and I'm not playing favorites here at all, but I did find an example of a better solution, and it would be cool if we could go to something like this. All right, now there's something to be said about watching others in your field, seeing what other people do, and adopting it. First, you have to make sure it fits the culture of your organization. But this is just some very basic improvements that you can make. So, this is the Parkland website. All right, and again, I'm only using this because it fixes the shallow problem that we have on the other site. So here, we have fewer options, maybe 50 or 60, I don't know. I'm estimating. Looks like maybe 30, I don't know. And they have subcategories. But let's say you don't want to sift through all of those. This right here is ingenious. Because think about for a second, who is going to be the target audience of the website for a college? All right, think about it. Prospective students, right? Those are very important to the college. So, what do prospective students want to do? They want to enroll. Or they want to find information first, and then they want to enroll. The school wants people to enroll. So, that may be one of the most important part, at least to me, I think so. I don't know. I haven't run a community college before. Maybe someday. But it's nice to have an option to get into that. And so, unfortunately now, I don't see a quick way to do that. Maybe apply now is here. Okay, but I feel like you should make this stand out for sure, right? So that people don't have to look for it. But what I like about this is instead of designing the website for all of the target audiences, because we have prospective students, we have parents of prospective students, we have the employees of the college, we have a very diverse set of, or a diverse audience, okay? And so when you have that, what you should do is not do this, where you throw everything that all those groups need in a giant mess that no one can navigate. But I like this idea. Look, they just have a drop down for each individual audience. So I think they should probably make this bigger because it's easy to miss. But let's say you are, students that are actually enrolled need this site too. So here, if I'm accepted to the college, this is going to give me all of the information and links that I need, and not anything I don't need. Only the stuff I need. Isn't that nice? It's much better. Let's say I'm a parent. They even have a section for that. And what this does, it allows them to focus. What do parents care about? They care that their money is being well spent to make a successful person, right? Or I guess it's also expensive babysitting, but potentially. I don't know. What if you are lucky enough to have parents that can help you go through college? Then hopefully you don't take it for granted. Okay, anyway, let's see. So here, this is something about community colleges that really threw me off in the beginning. When you're going to buy something, what do you care about? You don't want to buy something that is going to fall apart or break, and you usually determine that by one way is the price. Okay, you have to be able to differentiate paying for a brand and paying for quality. Okay, because a lot of times popular brands become expensive because of the brand, and they're made of the exact same thing as other brands, but they may cost a lot more. All right, so don't fall into that trap, because you could use that money a lot better saving it. All right. And for the people that are non-traditional students that may be watching this, I'm not lecturing you, I promise. I actually have learned a lot from traditional students, so if you have any feedback also or wisdom to share with us, please do so. It's very valuable. Okay. Here they're talking about the benefits of going to school in Champaign. And they're focusing on the cost here. $171 per credit hour. So they're focusing on how cheap it is. And that's the thing about community college that really struck me as odd, is the number one thing that they like to tout is how cheap they are, which is something in other areas you should be very wary of. But I guess in this case, education shouldn't even cost this much money. But I highly recommend starting I don't need to tell you, you already are doing it, but start your education in community college or junior college. Okay, it has generally has a smaller population. The instructors, their job is to teach. Professors in a university, they also have to perform research, and then they teach on the side. Some of them take it more seriously, and some take research more seriously. But at a community college, my only job is to teach and make sure that you guys are ready and ready to be employed, and that you will become a valuable employee, so much that people will want to seek you out. That's my goal. Okay. some weird sounds coming out of my computer. Okay. So you don't want a shallow hierarchy, and so we saw a site with a shallow hierarchy, and we saw one that found a way to fix it, okay, by reducing the number of options, or providing a way to limit the options to what you care about. All right, and that fixes it. You're always going to have to deal with whether or not you're going to have a deep or shallow hierarchy. It just depends on how much information you have and your audience. You always want to consider that. Okay, so the other problem is if you have a deep hierarchy, okay, and I have struggled to find a good example of this type of site because I feel like you almost have to do it on purpose. So what this is, shows how the pages are linked together, and instead of not being able to find the information you want because there's so much information in front of you, the problem here is you have to load several pages before you find the information you want. All right, so if you can think of a website that suffers from a deep hierarchy, what you're looking for is something that you have to click a lot and load a lot of pages to get to, and that takes a long time. And you can, I don't know if the number's changed, but there is a number of milliseconds that people start to get aggravated waiting while surfing the web. All right. I guess the only thing, actually I have a good example. And on the student side, it's not so bad. I'm talking about Canvas. On the teacher side, I'm surprised I haven't pulled all my hair out. The amount of pages and levels that you have to go through to do something as simple as change the points of an assignment or add a date on an assignment, it's getting better, but it drives me nuts, and it takes so much time. I lose a lot of time trying to use that. Though it could be that I need to get better at it. But it's very aggravating. If you've ever been on a slow connection and you're trying to browse the internet, it's very frustrating, especially if you're trying to do something under a time crunch. So you want to avoid bad hierarchy structures. And again, you can determine these by building your sitemap ahead of time. Remember, planning is very important. It'll save you a lot of problems. All right, another type of site is a linear layout. The pages are organized linearly. And the best example I can think of this, there's two. Websites that have step-by-step instructions, and instead of just scrolling down the page between the steps, it's delivered to you in almost like a slide format. So you look at the first one, and then you click to load the next page, and then you keep following through to the end. So this would be good for like some sort of guided instructions or something, so that you can focus on one step at a time. But then it would be hard to see the overall. So you would have to think about how you would want to deal with that. All right. Now, the other type of site that uses this are clickbait sites. If you've ever seen a link to the top 10 child actors, you won't believe what they look like now, or top 20 cutest puppies, or you get the idea. If you click on those links, it brings you to a site, and it'll show you one example, and it loads a bunch of ads. And then you have to click to the next screen to see the next picture, and it loads all the ads. And so they've set this up on purpose to generate ad revenue. So in some advertising schemes online, you get more money based on things like how many ads are delivered to customers, and how many ads, how long ads are active on a page, and how many people click on the link. And then also, even if you click on the link and make a purchase on the other end, they're also compensated for that. So they're ad bombing you to make fractions of a penny from loading ads, and then hoping that you might even accidentally click on one, or you'll buy something. All right. And if you've heard of targeted advertising, sometimes it can be very effective. So be strong. Remember, if you don't need it, maybe we can get it later when you have a better job. Okay. The last one here is random organization. And some examples of this are, I can't remember, I think it's Hacker Nest, which is a website with challenges to test your ability to outsmart basic web security principles. And you do that by manipulating JavaScript code, accessing comments from CSS or from JavaScript code to learn what passwords are and things like that. And then all the way to things like injection attacks, or where you can put in code and it gets set in the text box or something, and it gets sent to a server where it runs, and you can do things like access the database to pull information, login information, valuable data that you can sell to someone else, things like that. Don't do cybercrime. It used to be the Wild West because nobody knew that it was even happening, and then once identity theft became a huge problem, it is people know more about it. And so unfortunately, due to the increase in need of software developers and web developers, who know how to program but may not understand cybersecurity principles of programming, or they just don't know the best practices, things get created. I wish I remember his name. I probably talked about this in a previous class, or it was probably a different class, but I took a class at a conference taught by a white hat hacker, which means he hacks people's sites and then informs them of their vulnerabilities and offers his services as a consultant to bring them up to best practices. Banks, banking apps. He has if I can find his site, I gotta find the site. He has a list of companies on his website that he has contacted about ridiculous types of vulnerabilities that are so old that it was not even he could teach you how to do it in 30 minutes, and then you could apply that same thing to a lot of different apps and banking websites. Don't do it though. You don't want to go to prison. They take that stuff very seriously. But the point of it is, if a website or an organization that you trust is on that list, they are vulnerable, and you could lose your identity. You could have your identity stolen. You could lose money. The biggest thing that I learned from him was since companies are rushing to build apps, they don't follow best practices. He identified like a dozen banking apps that stored your password as plain text in a file, in a folder, in your phone. What that means is if someone gets your phone, they'll know your banking password, or they can get it fairly easily. That's scary. So I'll see if I can find that. Let's find his website so you can take a look at that. Anyway, I learned a ton, and now I apply those things that I learned in my classes. So we learned about brute force hacking in Python, and in web scripting 1 and 2, we look at various types of vulnerabilities that are easy to avoid, and that way you're prepared, because again, I have a lot of contacts in local companies, and they're also part of my advisory council, and they tell me exactly what they want in an employee, and then I just put it in the class. So, and also, if you've never heard of best practices, it has to, we actually looked at an example here. Best practices in website design, you can see, are not followed. You need someone who's an expert to be able to follow best practices. But to find best practices, it's not that hard. And every industry, every industry has best practices. And companies develop them and inform them. Okay, so here's a list of 13 website design best practices. And this is probably more valuable than the entirety of Chapter 5. Okay? Keep text to a minimum. Use short sentences. Unfortunately, the reason that is important is because of people's attention spans when shopping and different things like that. What is a CTA? I haven't heard of that term. Here's the thing. This field changes all the time. Call to action. Okay. So, let's look at this site. Again, what do you think the most important call to action would be for someone who's using this site? All right. If we want to talk about the most important part, it's you guys, the students, right? And for the college, it's getting more students. And as a community college, and we're a nonprofit, so we want to get more students so we can help more people. At least that's what I think I'm doing. And so, where's the enroll button? Where do I get more about how do I enroll? What information can I use to make a decision on going to Lakeland? What is this up here in the top left corner? All right, let's zoom in. Look at that. It's almost hidden. Because we have a picture in the center of the page, that's where you're going to look first. And then you'll see these options. You may not even see, it's black, and the text is small. You may never even see this. So why would you hide your call to action? It should be a big red flashing button right in the middle All right, it should be the first thing that people see every time. You know, Parkland also has the same issue here on their site. Let's see. At least they're talking about some of the benefits here, and you know, showing some students and talking about success. All right. You guys have probably been fed so many lines regarding success that you're probably sick of hearing that word. Okay, so how do I enroll? Future students. Again, way too tiny call to action here. And that is number 5 of this list of best practices in web design. How long did it take me to find this list? All right. And I found one, you know, here's the thing, I already talked about this, I just didn't realize it was called a CTA. So, this is exactly what is needed. You can have it up in the menu, but you need it big and visible, and it should be the first thing that draws people's eyes, and so they think about it. When you look at this site, or this site, it's way too overwhelming. All right. Maybe I'm not ready for this. There's a lot of information. I haven't been to college in a long time. Maybe I never did. And also, hey, I'm out of high school. I have no idea what to expect. It's very scary for people. All right. So guidance is extremely important in this regard. And we don't have that. We don't have that nailed down. Since this is a recorded video, I'm really holding back. If we were in the classroom, I would rip these apart. But we paid a lot of money for the website, so we got what we paid for. If anyone from Lakeland does see this and you want to improve your site, I'd love to be involved. Because you can't always trust companies to have your best interest in mind if they're just going to make you a website and provide maintenance through a fee. And especially if you don't know what to ask for. This is probably a boilerplate website fed in with the information. If you take the content management systems class, you'll learn about something called WordPress, and some of you might be in that class. And this website is built using WordPress, and I have a little web tool, an extension in Chrome. It's called Wappalizer. I'll put it in the chat here. And it's very useful for gaining information. Let me put it in the chat, and then we'll take a look at it. And this is going to be like a 4-hour class at this point. Ignore the part earlier where I said we'll go through this quickly. It's a lot easier in the classroom to stop because you got to go to another class. But let's see, I've got a couple of people watching, and so if you need to go and you lose interest in this, that's fine. I won't be offended. Okay, anyway, Wappalizer extension. I'll go to Lakeland site and I hit the button, Wappalizer. Alright, and so through scraping the web site data and the request headers and things involving the communication, it can detect its best guess at what is being used, technologies that are being used on the site. So right here, this is a big red flag. WordPress. It is a tool that allows you to build a website structure with little to no effort. All you have to do is get someone to put in the information for you. That's the part that takes the longest. Data entry. Okay. We can also see some extra stuff here. Databases, they're using MySQL. So if you wanted to, don't do this, but if you wanted to take advantage of vulnerabilities, now you can focus on vulnerabilities in MySQL. You don't have to worry about other databases. Okay. And so WordPress uses MySQL, and it's used that for a long time. It uses it to store users, images, basically all the settings for the website, and it's probably needs to be updated to something more modern. The default password encryption that WordPress uses, and I want to talk about the weakness. WordPress is extremely popular. A lot of websites use it because it's simple. The person that programs it or develops a WordPress site, they piece it together, and then you can give it to the whoever wants the site, and they can edit it themselves through a graphical user interface. So if they want to add a new page, they just click Add New Page and type information in a box, and they can click some pictures to add in. No code required. And so the person that provided that can provide support and charge for that, maintenance fees for that. I actually have had quite a number of students who do this on the side while they're taking the program. They find companies either online or locally and that need a website, because I get right now it's low, but I usually get a large amount of requests from companies that want students to make them a site. It's great internship experience, and just working with someone else that isn't your teacher, because I have a really hard time tearing you down. I want to build you up. But if you're working with a client, they care more about their business than you learning, and so you really put your skills to the test. Anyway, I've had students that do this successfully and make money. I had one of my earliest students when I started at Lakeland. There was a website. I can't remember. Anyway, it's not as useful now, but he would get $400 or $500 contracts to program someone's site remotely, develop and design a site, and he would make good money on that. But he just did it on the side, and he wanted to move up, so he was working to get his degree. And he told me the money flow stopped because what happened was developers from India were offering the exact same service for a fraction of the price. And so this is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That is part of globalization. We're going to have to compete for jobs with people around the world, especially in technology. That's good that it's growing. But anyway, they were offering sites for $70. And he could go work at, a fast food restaurant and make more money than building the time it took to design and build a good website for $70. It just wasn't worth it anymore. That's another part of the reason he was getting his degree. All right. So that avenue was closed off, but local companies still need websites. And you can even identify, if you're really gung-ho and proactive, you could visit websites of local companies and identify weaknesses, and then, send the company an email with an offer to improve it. I know it's scary if you've never negotiated the price for something, but you just have to be realistic. And how do you say, how much do I charge? Well, how much is your time worth to you? That's how much you charge. If you need a good baseline, you just Google it. Make sure you look specifically at, what level of experience you have and the prices in the area. Because if you just look at the top price, no one around here is going to be able to afford that. Okay. But they should pay you more than $70 for sure. And they're probably not even aware that you could get a website for $70. But again, you get what you pay for. And it's a lot easier to trust and get support from people locally. So you're a prime candidate. Anyone here is a prime candidate for a job like that. Even if you're just making cosmetic changes. Or, like I'm showing you right now, you can increase the efficiency of your website by following best practices. They're not a secret. Okay. Anyway, so this website is built using WordPress. Let's check the Parkland site. All right. They're using DNN. I've not heard of that. Let's see. So apparently it competes with these other CMSs. WordPress, look at the market share of WordPress. This is why I teach WordPress in my CMS class. All right. Some companies locally do use Drupal. All right. It's a little bit more technical than WordPress. So I make that the honors project for that course. And then these other ones. I created a site using Squarespace. It was super easy. I just needed a quick portfolio site, and I wasn't going to design it from scratch. The amount of time it takes to make a website that has proper design and these kind of tools include best practices in them. All right. And then there's Wix. We use that in the CMS class also. It's a drag and drop website builder. You have a lot of freedom, and any of these, the problem is you're limited on what you can include. With WordPress and Drupal, you primarily look for add-ons that other people have programmed and you work those in. The problem is if they lose support, so the developer stops, it's up to you to maintain it. So as the web changes, you would have to manually maintain it or find an alternative, which could be, could cost a lot of time and money. Some people get a job. I had a student who edited and creates WordPress plugins as a side job. There are people that need very specific things, and you can't always find them. So there's that. Okay. So I don't know. DNN. What did it say? Has a 0.06 market share or something. Anyway, I don't know very much about that. The leading .NET CMS. Okay. This looks like it's something. Well, their own website doesn't work, so that's a really bad sign. I know it's funny that I teach web design, but I used a CMS to create a website. It's all about efficiency. Why? You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time you want to write a program, develop a software solution, or build a website. In fact, it's better not to. Let's see if I actually paid for renewed this domain. It's jamesmunger.net. So this is a site that I built with Squarespace. All right, and it's basically just a website that I created for to use as a portfolio of my work while teaching. So I have, this is out of date now because I'm not actively looking for a job, but I also created another website, and this one I did create from scratch of my work. Oh, where's the link to that? Here it is. Oh, and this is probably, I wonder if this even exists anymore. Okay. So people can look at the courses I teach, and I've included example assignments and things like that, and tests and all kinds of things. Those are all old, though. I can't ever use the same test, not because people will attempt to cheat by getting the old tests, but the information changes so rapidly. Good luck. I refuse to teach out-of-date things. At least out of date to me and the advisory council. Like here we have, I used to teach something called Advanced Web Technologies, which was a PHP course. I don't teach that anymore, but it's not too different from Python. So you can easily switch over. WordPress and Drupal and what was the other one? I don't remember. Those are all... Oh, there's a e-commerce framework that all three of those are built on PHP, which is a web scripting language. It's old, and you can tell if you ever have to use it. And the tools that are that use it were built a long time ago, and it's just not feasible for them to pivot into a better language. Okay. And why should they, if they're still holding the majority of the market share? So this DNN site that we were looking at looks like it uses .NET, and so I'm assuming it's probably programmed in Java or C# or something, and so it probably follows more modern web development principles. Okay. And then, so you can see, not only do I have to develop courses, but I build these programs and keep them up to date. Unfortunately, this semester, we weren't, because of the hassle and the fact that we had to convert all the courses in a very short amount of time to this virtual modality. I'm also a club advisor for something called Club IT. It's an awesome group where we give you volunteer opportunities. We clean out. We have our own garden, and we keep that clean. It's last time I saw it was a little overrun with weeds, taller than me, but that'll be a lot of work when we go back. And so a lot of people in this program join the club. We have speakers. Sometimes we do field trips. We do an event every semester with the Coles County Council on Aging, and they provide us a space, and they advertise this event that brings in people from the community who want help with their devices. And so anything from a laptop to an iPhone to an Android phone to tablets. And generally, these are people who need help using basic devices. And students in this program generally know enough to help people. They're not trying to do anything crazy. They just want to know how to send pictures, take pictures of their grandkids, send pictures of their grandkids. How do they send texts? How do they open text? All of the stuff that we take for granted as being simple. And if you've ever seen someone who hasn't used a computer in 50 years of their entire life, and they're 50 or more, they need help with things like, how do I hold a mouse? And so we do this event, and it's an amazing volunteer event for the community, and it was the brainchild of one of our instructors, Brett Sawyer. He gets credit for this. He had connections through the Coles County Council on Aging. And so, anyway, if you take the game design courses at Lakeland, you may know him already. And then we tried to pilot a high school where we bus in high schoolers to take my courses for a couple semesters. And one of the courses we did was game design. So I had them design a board game. Each person designed their own board game. Okay, anyway, just looking at designs here. See, the reason I put this here is I wanted people to see the work, and so, hey, what is this? This looks like a list of the courses that is in the program that he works on. And now, again, all this stuff's out of date now, so I would update this if I was going to use it. Little advice for you. You should always be looking at other jobs, especially in software development or web development. When a company hires you, they usually have a set salary, and then you get a raise periodically. So your salary gradually increases. Once you gain enough experience, you may get a promotion or you may not. Maybe you don't want one. Maybe you want to keep doing the same job. But as you gain experience, your salary does not increase at the same rate as it would if you had 5 or 10 years of experience doing software or web development. You could find a job. People will headhunt you and offer you way more money to work for their company. And so there are a ton in this field. It's normal to do linear jumps between companies. And even people on the advisory council have told me, I worked at one company and they paid me this. Another company offered me a job paying double. And so I asked my company, hey, they're going to pay me this much. How much will you pay me? All right. And hey, if they were going to, they were guaranteed the job, they were going to get that double salary. But their own company said, we can't do that. And so what he did was he moved over there, got that new job, and then years down the line, his original company offered him a job with an even higher salary. So you always want to be looking at potential jobs, even if you have no intention of leaving your job. There are times when you may lose your job because of things that are out of your control. Take the current situation, for example. And if you have, for a while, a couple years ago, I was trying to apply to jobs every month. It's a great, two things. It's a great self-esteem builder if you get into the interview, but it's also really good to prepare you for rejection. All right, finding a job is probably the first time in people's lives where you're going to be rejected way more than accepted, unless you're lucky, unless you know where a job is that other people aren't going to do or are unwilling to. Then it's much easier to find a job. But if you're looking for a good job, you're competing with a lot of other people, and there's only a few jobs available. So you cast a wide net, and you have to get used to being rejected. It feels terrible in the beginning, but it gets way easier as it happens more and more. Because, the company doesn't want to waste your time. Though some places that you apply to will waste your time because it'll be 4 weeks, and then you'll call them and say, hey, how did that go? And like, oh, we hired someone 2 weeks ago. So you have to get used to that. And it's hard, and it's hard to make yourself continue. But, in my case, I've been in this job for between 5.5 and 6 years now. I'm getting too cozy in my job, and so it's really good to constantly keep an eye out for opportunities. So I was applying to jobs every month, just all over the country, and jobs that looked interesting to me. And I had no intention of leaving because I feel very invested in this area and trying to help, improve as many people's lives as possible. Because, if you help someone, sorry, I'm going to get preachy again here. And I've probably said this before, but there was a philosopher type person in history, and you can Google this. I think his name's like Maimonides or something. Anyway, he created this list of levels of charity. All right, and it was very interesting. And this is something that I'm talking about because I want you to keep an open mind and to try to understand why things are the way they are. Okay, so in his levels of charity, the lowest level was publicly giving money or resources to someone and letting everyone know you did it. All right, that was that's still charity, but it's the lowest level because your intentions can be, people don't know what your intentions are. Anyway, it moves up to things like donating money and telling the person that you're donating it to that you provided it, and then higher than that is just donating money and no one will ever know you did it. And the highest level that he put was teaching someone a trade is the highest form of charity. If you just give someone money, they're going to run out. It may help them get on their feet, or it may not. But if you teach someone how to provide for themselves, they can, in turn, help others do the same thing. So, that's kind of my philosophy in this job. And I want you to know that that is my goal. I want to teach you a trade. I want you to be successful. And all of that. And really, I want to believe that's the goal of a community college. So, all right. What I'm talking about is way more interesting to me than chapter 5. Okay, let's get down to wireframes. A lot of this stuff is common sense. So let me just look at this real quick. Again, thinking about target audience, what colors do you want to use for kids? Bright colors are good. For everyone, just neutral kinds of colors. So earth tones. It's not a bright neon color. It's not primary colors like we use that we have been using so far. Avoid using primary. I mean, if it's a website for kids, hey, primary colors all the way. So here we've got, darker colors, kind of neutral colors that really can't offend anyone. Hopefully. Someone somewhere can find a reason to be offended by colors. But we also need to talk about, because of globalization, we have to consider what colors mean to other cultures. So let me see when my next class is here. I may have to cut this into 2 lectures at this point. I don't want to miss out. I don't want to forget a class. Okay, and it looks like I lost my audience anyway, so I'll put this on later. Okay, No, I have time until 1. Okay. So we'll pick up with the color thing, but if you're interested, definitely take a look at what color means. All right, because you can convey meaning with color. Besides meaning, you can also, use it as to attract people. Like examples here, pictures and interesting colors that stand out, like black, I guess. That in the book, I think they talk about this. This website is black because it appeals to young adults, and they prefer, dark things and rebelling and going against the man. So anyway, look at this site. It's a senior health website. It's got big old text, black on a white background. Your audience is older adults, and as a group, older adults tend to have poor vision. Right? Not true of everyone, but if that's true, you want to make this as easy to read. You don't really care about making it look good, because you don't want to sacrifice functionality for aesthetics in web design, unless you're creating a website about aesthetics. But still, even then, you want it to be functional. That's my philosophy on designing a website anyway. Because what's more aggravating than not being able to use a website properly and getting what you want is having the reason you can't do that because they made it more difficult to use because they designed it with only aesthetics in mind, or they valued aesthetics over functionality. Okay, you can choose your own school of thought on that, but we'll talk about some more design principles regarding color next time, and have a good day, and I'll see you next week.